So I think we should dive right in because a lot of people don't know what twice exceptional kids are, which is what we call them in the field for kids who are bright and quirky.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so let's start. What is a twice exceptional 2E child?
So this is a term that many of us don't hear when we go through getting a teacher credential, going through psychology training, medical school. This is a term that has slowly gained more and more traction, and it's a really important term. So when we think about twice exceptionality, the best visual is to look at the bell curve, which you see in front of you right now. And on a bell curve, we have the middle of the bell curve is what we call typical skills, where most of the population fits in terms of skills related to, it could be running, it could be math, it could be attention, it could be thinking. And then on the high end, where we have advanced skills, there are less of those people who are on that higher end and have those advanced abilities. We often say 95th, 96th, 97th, 98th, 99th percentile and beyond. On the other side of the bell curve, you can see where there's also less kids, less people. We have lagging skills and abilities, skills that are behind what we consider typical. When you have a twice exceptional individual, these people have both advanced skills on the one end and delayed and lagging skills on the other end. And so in reality, we really see these kids as multi-exceptional because, as we'll talk about in a little while, there's lots of different skills and lagging skills and strengths that go into this profile. But really, when we think about 2E, we think about multiple exceptionalities which interact with one another.
And what makes them so complex is that if you have a school system that has gifted education, general education, and special education, they really don't fit neatly into any of those silos.
No, that is the problem. And again, this is kind of going against a myth where people think, well, bright kids or people who are, quote, gifted are good at everything and advanced at everything. And also that kids with disabilities have problems across all the levels of development. And both of those things are false. In fact, a lot of this comes in the same person, both advanced abilities, great expected level or typical abilities, and delayed abilities in the same person.
Yeah, absolutely. So what kind of strengths would we be seeing with a twice exceptional or 2E child?
So typical strengths, of course, we say when you've seen one twice exceptional child, you've seen one twice exceptional child, right? Everyone has their unique profile. However, to make some generalities, we see advanced thinking, right? These are people who think deeply, that make connections. They may have very high vocabulary and very high expressive skills. They also may have very high visual spatial problem solving with patterns, with puzzles. These kids can be highly creative. They can be advanced in reading. They can be advanced in math. They can be little scientists, and they can be builders and inventors. So it's like you really see a host of advanced skills that make most adults say, wow, it's really like it often stands out as a marker of, this doesn't seem typical.
Awesome. And then what would we be seeing on the challenge side or even a diagnosis?
Mm-hmm. So with challenges, I could say, I'm going to give you some ballparks and then we can go a little deeper. So from a ballpark, we often see executive functioning challenges. We see challenges with organization, time management, focused attention, distractibility. We also see challenges with emotional or self-regulation, dysregulation. So very emotional very quickly, like 0 to 100, can have meltdowns at the drop of something which seems to be minor. We also can see handwriting deficits, like really sloppy handwriting, which is very different than high verbal skills. We can see delays in social processing and understanding the give and take of social relationships. We can have some math challenges. We sometimes see some auditory processing challenges, which can be confused with attentional challenges. And we also often see visual processing challenges where eyes have trouble fixating on the letter or the number to be able to read fluently.
So what this makes me think of is asynchronous development. Can you tell us about that?
Yes. So asynchronous development is where you have advanced skills and delayed skills. So think about the 10-year-old who has the verbal reasoning abilities of a 15-year-old kind of this can talk you into circles and is a debater and a junior attorney. And then also might have delayed skills, let's say handwriting skills at age 6 or 7, and also might have emotional regulation skills of a 6, 7, or 8-year-old. So what you have is again, this advanced skills, you have some typical skills, and then you have these delayed skills. So we call that developmental asynchrony. When we talk about asynchrony and referring to the previous question about diagnoses, people often ask, what's the difference between asynchrony and what's the difference between then an actual diagnosis? So if someone has challenges with attention and executive functioning and it's a weakness, does that mean they automatically have ADHD? So the answer is no, it doesn't mean. It could be a weakness. We say when the asynchrony is very severe, then we see diagnoses such as ADHD. You can have dyslexia, you can have autism spectrum disorder, you can have dyscalculia, which is the dyslexia of math, dysgraphia, which is the fine motor issues, auditory processing disorder, different visual processing disorders. So there's a host of labels that are assigned when we see tremendous asynchrony that impacts the ability to perform at what we would expect for the child's intellectual ability.